My mom gave birth to me when she was 17. Yeah, I know how that sounds. From what I've heard, she used to sleep around so much in high school that she doesn't even know who my father is. As a woman in her teens, she was definitely not willing to raise a child. But my grandparents didn't allow her to get an abortion. As a result, she was forced to take care of me. She was the opposite of a good mother. If I was crying, she would put on loud music and pretend I didn't exist. There were nights when I had to go to bed hungry because she refused to breastfeed me and I wouldn't eat anything else. Thankfully, my grandparents noticed this and took me under their care. My mother was happy to stay away from me and went back to her type of lifestyle. She moved out into a dorm to prepare for college. My grandmother took proper care of me at home and my grandfather would take me to the park often. He had a surgery done on his hip so he wasn't able to move that much but always made sure to play with me. I consider them my real parents and will always be grateful to them. When I was 4 years old, they hired a babysitter to take care of me because they had to attend a wedding. On their way back, they had a terrible accident and unfortunately didn't make it. As a kid at the time, I didn't know that my life was about to become a living hell. I cried for days and days. The house was in my mother's name so she moved back. It's like she was happy that her parents were gone, because she began having late night parties in the house literally a week later. She became the queen of her college because she had an empty house where everyone could hang out and do substances. At that time I still wasn't over the passing of my real parents so I would cry violently in my room. Sometimes my cries would reach downstairs and I guess her friends asked about it because she would barge into my room with anger on her face and put tape over my mouth. Then she would proudly say, "If you keep crying I'll throw you out the window." So I would cover my mouth with my hands and cry with a muffled voice. I remember having to beg her for food because she would always be hungover. After a few months of this kept repeating, she became fed up with me and took me to another state. I was excited because I thought we were finally going to spend time as a family. Guess what she did? She left me on the front door of an orphanage and drove off. Little did she know that would be the start of her downfall. I think CPS or the authorities tried to contact her but she never answered. Life at the orphanage was just as bad, however. There were too many kids for the caretakers to pay proper attention to everyone. I was still a crybaby so they hated me for how much noise I made. There were plenty of resources for everyone to share but the clever kids would hog most of them. I don't even remember having a favorite TV show or cartoon. The male caretakers would tell me, "You're a girl so you have more needs than others. That's why you are not happy." I'm honestly proud of the younger me for going through that and surviving. When I was 9, I was adopted by a couple struggling to have a kid of their own. Let's call them Kate and Brad. The words they spoke during our first meeting will stay with me for the rest of my life. "We won't try to be your real parents if you don't want us to. But we promise that we will provide you with everything you need, including love." And believe me when I say these two were the loveliest human beings on earth. They showered me with so much care and love that I began calling them mom and dad within a year. They also enrolled me in school. Thanks to them I breezed through until I reached high school. I was a good kid and got good grades because I wanted to impress my new parents. However, I got bullied for being a different race from them. Kids would talk about me all the time. "Look, it's the kid with blank parents. Do you think her mom cheated on her dad?" But since I knew the truth I just ignored them. I met Adon in my 3rd year of high school and everything flipped over from there. He made me feel so happy and wanted that I could no longer hear the nasty comments from my bullies. I introduced him to Kate and Brad. And they were reluctant at first, but soon welcomed him as family. I took psychology in college and was able to start working as a therapist. Having gone through a tough childhood I wanted to help others who were struggling with dealing with the past. I was 25 and still living with my parents, but me and Adon were saving up to buy a house. Then one day my biological mother knocked on the door. It looked like she had been run over by a train. Her attractive looks were nowhere to be seen. I think she is 41 or 42 years old now. She said, "Hi Ellie, do you remember me? I'm your mother." I kinda recognized her already so I said in a frustrated voice, "My mother is sitting on the couch inside this house. I don't know who you think you are but please go away." And I shut the door on her. From there began a series of events that would disturb my sleep at night for the next month. The very next day she knocked on the door again. I wasn't home at the time so Kate ended up talking to her. I don't know the exact details of the encounter but my bio mom tried to pull on Kate's hair so she was kicked out and had the cops called on her. Then she began exhibiting sociopathic behavior. She would show up to my office to bother me, begging for me to listen to her excuses. Adon helped me deal with the stress. Eventually I ended up agreeing to sit down and talk with her but in a public location. Part of it was my pride as a therapist, and I just couldn't bear to see someone in such a pathetic state. The meeting was honestly as expected. She was just giving me excuses about how she was a naive teenager that just wanted to party. Well, she had had a bit of trouble with the law and had to sell the house, so she was now homeless. She was asking me to give her some money and let her stay in Brad's house for a few weeks. A random thought popped into my head and I asked her if my grandparents had left any inheritance for me. Her exact words were, "Oh, yes they did honey. But mommy was in a lot of trouble so she had to use all of it. But you're now out of college so I guess you didn't really need it." I was pissed. I would be earning twice the money I am right now if I was able to afford a better college. I threw water at her face and told her, "You. Deciding to be a damn WHRE was your choice. I was just a baby and you decided to abandon me. You have no right to ask anything of me now. I will never let you step foot into my real parents' house. If you bother me or my family again, I will get a restraining order against you. Goodbye."